Welcome to AI Productivity Workflow, a show focused on the practical side of artificial intelligence, how real people use AI tools to get work done more efficiently, creatively, and productively. Each episode, we talk with professionals about their work, their scholarship, followed by an in-depth look at how they integrate AI into their day-to-day workflows. Whether you're a teacher, researcher, or professional looking to sharpen your productivity edge, you'll find some ideas right here in this show. And I have, Stephanie, I don't know how to classify you, because I was going to say I have a friend, because I feel like after all of these years, we're friends, but you're also one of my dissertation students that I've been working with for a while. And you've also been on podcasts. You were part of the Circular Firing Squad when we had that going for quite a long time. And so, and we just finished, before we started to record the show, we just kind of caught up on family and what's going on with work, and what's going on with your husband's work, which has been a new venture for him and for you. And so it feels really weird. I don't know what to call you, so I'll stick with friend at this moment. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, friend works for me because it's true. I think now we've known each other for like 13 plus years and just work well together in a lot of different ways. So I appreciate that a lot. I'm Stephanie. Hi. And as Marty was saying, I am a dissertation student, but I'm also a practicing clinical counselor. And I am, as Marty mentioned, working on my dissertation. And, AI comes in frequently to all of that. But I'm just trying to get that PhD and keep moving.
One of the things that I think is unique about you being a guest here is that you are a practicing clinician. Mm-hmm. And so people have all sorts of questions about whether or not you can even use AI for the work that you do. And we have presented together on AI. We presented together on other forms of technology and technology use. Your dissertation is about using apps and handheld apps or web-based apps, I guess, for dealing with anxiety. And so you're kind of grounded in the technology area, and you also have a very strong clinical background. So it's more than your academic work. You really are into the practice of it. So I'm just kind of curious what ways, and maybe you can just kind of fill that empty space with this. How is AI being used in the clinical mental health practice space right now?
So while our practice is not currently using AI for note-taking, I do know that is one of the major ways and bigger debates that people have over using AI as note-taking. There's a part of me that kind of wishes that we did have AI for note-taking, because so it would be nice just to be able to record things, because I am a clinician that needs to write synchronous notes. I do that in the moment. It hasn't interfered, but being able to leave that aside is a nice idea, where I could go back and then review what has been generated and adjust it. But, I think that is one of the major ways that it's entering the profession, and like one of the biggest ways that it's impacting things right now.
I was always terrible at writing synchronous notes, physically writing synchronous notes, because my handwriting stinks. Even after I've written it, it doesn't make much sense to me, let alone someone else in terms of clinical record. I do know there are places that are, using online or packaged services that have business associates agreements that are HIPAA compliant in terms of being able to do case notes. I do know now when I go to a physician or to a counselor, I am asked the question, do you mind if we record this for and use it as an AI note-taking scenario? And, that's a common question, and I've never said no. So as a client or as a patient, it just seems like we have incorporated that into what we expect out of medical or mental health services. I do know there are a lot of people that are recording. I don't think they're recording their clinical sessions, but I do know they're recording their sessions with their physicians to be able to remember, have accurate understanding of what was said and what's expected of them, because they will forget them. I have folks who are up in age that do that. They ask to request the doctor if I can record since you're recording. So,
Uh,
are there other ways that you see clinicians potentially using AI?
I mean, in a more basic kind of sense, not necessarily as involved as, generating notes. I mean, as a clinician, there are times where sometimes I am a little my brain gets a little stuck. I enjoy AI for kind of jogging my brain. Um, and if I'm working with a client and, I know I have gone through perhaps a couple of different approaches, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's just kind of a unique situation, it's nice to do a search because, like, at this point you can't really get away from AI. I mean, you can go in and turn off AI in some platforms, but things like Google now, I don't even know if that's possible. And but you get the AI version, the AI results generated first, and sometimes it just helps, like, oh, right, or oh, let me look into that. Maybe that is a good fit. Um, just kind of in those ways, or asking, um, to maybe outline different processes that might be helpful, just so I can go through then and pick the appropriate ones for the client.
Yeah, yeah. And so it broadens sort of your thinking around what might be going on with the client, or for people who have these kinds of clinical issues, what are a variety of ways that people can be treated, either medically, with medicines, with cognitive behavioral kinds of approaches, and what would you do in that case with a client that has those kinds of problems, or in more of a activity or homework based kind of reaction. So it generates a bunch of ideas.
And furthermore, in a different realm, just professionally speaking too, it makes responses to clients if they reach out via email or something, and they, I mean, I'm pretty good at just, like, not addressing most of it. I'm like, okay, we'll talk about that in session. Thank you for sharing. If they don't need anything immediate or a schedule change. At the same time, sometimes I am running around and it's hard to reply, and look at everything, and I go back to visit it, and AI will just kind of generate a skeleton response that I adjust. There's very little with AI that I kind of take at face value. I don't use AI to just copy and paste, but it just helps my brain, because sometimes my brain has a difficult time phrasing things in a certain way, the way that I'd like it to sound.
So do you have a preferred AI engine? Is it Gemini? Is it a
Chat
paid
GPT.
version of it, a ChatGPT or Claude? Are you using more than one, or is there one that you're focused with?
Chat GPT and I are friends. Not the way you and I are friends, but we are
Hmm.
familiar. And um, and although I have not yet paid for, a more sophisticated version, I do know the benefits, from talking with you, and
Hmm.
you're a proponent of that, and the results you get could be just much better. And
Yeah.
but I for example, with dissertation, at one point I had about 60 pages of text that I wrote, and somebody suggested that I remove a certain type of grammatical occurrence. I never heard of the grammatical occurrence. It's a real thing. I just hadn't heard of it. Um, and I didn't know what a gerund was. There, I said it.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right. Well,
but
I'm a big
but
yeah, I'm a big fan of the Oxford comma, so I would tell whatever I wrote, please put an Oxford comma in it.
it's true, right? I agree with you. Oxford commas are essential, but but I didn't know what a gerund was. It was too much at that time for my brain to understand and be able to pick it out every time it occurred in 60 pages of text. So I asked ChatGPT to go through pages of text at a time and identify the gerunds so I could go in and then, edit them.
And make it through that section of time.
Well, yeah, because otherwise it would take me another year because I would have to learn and then re-examine everything, and it's just like I can't.
Then you have to take the damn gerund test too before you're qualified to pick out gerunds.
You didn't warn us about this.
Yeah, well,
So
I have found that these tools have simplified a lot of our work. Now, some folks are saying, well, it's making us stupid. And I think it's a different type of thinking. So, for example, I'm working on a project right now where I'm trying to do some things with prompt engineers. And the particular prompt engineer I'm working on is, and it's for a presentation I'm giving next week, so I better get it done. But it's a prompt engineer that acts as a troubleshooter for when things go wrong with your technology. And I'm looking at multiple platforms. I'm looking at multiple incidents or most common incidents that occur. Like, is it printing? Is it connecting? Is it monitors? Is it things like that? So there's a whole kind of decision tree that goes into that. And I can generate that, and it's a huge, long prompt for prompt engineer. And what I'd like to do now, and I'm asking Claude to help me with this, is to take this large prompt engineer and somehow put it into either a web-based app or somewhere where people can have that on their devices, like as an icon or as a link, like an app. And they can click on it and it will automatically generate that prompt where it needs to go. So I'm using it for more larger creative problem solving. I don't want to have to spend a lot of time learning how to code in order to get it done. And I might see myself as being stupider because of that. But frankly, it's getting the task done that I need to be able to take this content and put it in a portable format for people who are going to use it. So that's one example. Another thing that I do is, even with the show notes that we put together for this episode, I have templates. I have previous versions of show notes. I have a new guest coming, and maybe a topic that is in their area of interest or expertise. And for that purpose, I can have a show note, which is basically the flow of the show, and I can send that to you. Claude generates it for me. I can send it to you, and we have working copy in front of us to be able to do the show. So I'm using it for those kind of productivity things that don't necessarily generate privacy issues for, like you would do in a clinical setting. There would be concerns about that in a clinical setting. So I know some healthcare systems have purchased things like Gemini, but they purchased their own version of Gemini, which keeps material contained or on device. So we're seeing more and more of that happening with it. And so maybe that will open up with your practice and with what you're doing, we'll see more people do that. We've done workshops together on this before, and that when we talk about it, somebody is always going to raise their hand and say, well, I'm going to practice, and have you heard that we're using this? And it is some business associates process for creating notes or managing bookings and things like that. So
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I think, it's kind of, it helps get rid of the things that kind of aren't essential to the work you're doing that you want, and you can bypass maybe learning everything there is so you can do it all yourself and create it all yourself, but you can still make unique, important, beneficial content and
yeah,
get direction on how to do things. I used it once in a very just in a personal way, but it was really great to see a code come up and to be able to get a little mini program or um, app going. So I appreciate that because yeah, coding didn't happen. I tried even when I tried to like get books like 40 years ago on with the Commodore 64. All you had to do was copy the code. All you
right.
had to do to make a game, all you had to do is take what was in the book and transfer it. And I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. So I appreciate the help.
Yeah, I had the code for Eliza, and being a mental health person, you probably know Eliza is that chatbot that basically did Rogerian responses to whatever you put in it. And they had that code that you could type into your Commodore and run the whole thing. It was pretty cool. It was like 2 pages of really tiny code. And I'm like, I don't have a scanner. I don't have all the things I have now that could easily get that code into it. But
For me, it's not necessarily getting more done in a short amount of time with my work in a clinical way at the moment because I
right.
don't have the notes. But as I was saying before too, it just having a little bit of a skeleton of a response for things that helps me because I can get something that I feel sounds professional or makes the point or has the tone I want and send it off without thinking for 25 minutes and editing it over and over again. Um, you know, I think sometimes just like I said too, without racking my brain for days or weeks to be able to come up with ideas or plans or things, just inspiration. I need that
Yeah.
inspiration, but that helps me be more productive.
Yeah.
Be- just it just I don't have to spend a lot of time getting the right words in because I'll get it options. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got an experiment for you to try. I did this like last week and it completely blew me away. Ask your and then I told some students in class to do it, and I didn't expect them to give me their results, but they were blown away too. Ask your LLM, whether it be ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or the one that you use the most, I would say is probably best. Ask it to write you a, in quotes, dear me letter.
All right.
I don't know if you're going to try and do that now or you're just
I,
writing down.
well, I was just writing that down, but if I'll do it right now. I was going to, if as long as it doesn't interfere. Let's see what happens here. Okay. Uh,
Yeah, if you have used the service for all sorts of different kinds of work, you will be surprised what comes back as it generates it.
okay. Well, here we go. Mm, why won't you? Okay. Well, it's going.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens in a minute. Let me move the window over. You can see when it's up. I don't know. So that sounds interesting. I'm looking
Yeah, I
forward to
mean,
seeing what it is. Yeah.
oh, it's generating?
Yeah. Uh, oh, okay. Aw. I mean, I glanced at it, but I'm getting the gist, and oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
ChatGPT.
I won't ask you. You know, the thing with LLMs are they are
Yeah.
meant to be affirming, which is one of their faults. So, but when you ask
It's
them to write you a Dear Me letter, then what happens is you get a very affirming letter about yourself.
it's so affirming.
And one of my friends said, I thought they were lauding over me a little bit too much, but it talks about, you know, your qualities. And if you've, you know, I did some searches or did some things putting together programming for international students. So it knew I worked with international students and it added that into the narrative. And so, yeah, it's an interesting
That's
little,
fabulous. Hey, you know what? Okay. And that is something where maybe if I had clients that use I would suggest to them go home and ask for that, a Dear Me letter,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
that'd be fun to do. Hopefully they're not using it for crazy stuff,
Not my concern unless they bring it to the
but
office.
it would be affirming about the crazy stuff. You
It's
know,
true.
it would be, you do the crazy stuff so well.
So it might actually make my job harder in some ways, but
Or,
no,
or
I
it
think it
could,
would be
yeah,
great.
or it could be, you know, guaranteed employment, because you're going to have to work longer with them.
Hey, I like all of
Job
that.
security. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So,
that is
yeah.
but that was very cool. Thank you for sharing that. It was
Have you run into situations as of yet where clients are talking about using AI? And do you have any guidance for them?
oh gee. I think so yeah, I mean, clients will bring in their AI generated, therapist with
Hmm.
them to session. And I appreciate it when they share because then we can talk about it. I think,
Right.
then that's generally if they are using that, that's what I would ask or suggest or encourage is saying like, cool, go do that. And then we can talk about it in session because, it's not, it's AI. So we also know that it's not always right and mistakes can be made. And when you're talking about, someone's clinical care, you don't want necessarily big overarching no-nos to kind of come in and have the client think like this is good for me or this is the way I should be handling the situation.
Yeah.
Um, so I just for clients especially, and all of us proceed with a little caution, but that's where I think as you were talking, you need a different kind of intelligence and approach. It's
Yeah.
AI is not there to do it for you.
Yeah.
It,
You know, I think it should be an essential screening question nowadays.
hmm,
Just like your research, there should be a screening question. Are you using any apps
hmm,
for clients who you might be seeing? I think you should also ask them, are you using anything like AI or chatbots that you're working with? Because it opens up the conversation. And, you know, if they say yes, you can go, well, that's cool. Is it okay if we talk about that? Because it seems like those are of value to you and it could help support what we're trying to do in here. So it's better to be inside the tent with them around their AI use and or around their app use. So that could be a good way of thinking about pulling that in. And the best way to ask
hmm,
that is at the beginning when you're screening them and you're
hmm.
getting to know them to see if they're using apps, AI, or chatbots in a way that they could be using it. So,
Yeah, because I mean, there are others that I mean, just to your point, that come in and they also get some good information or validation over some broader kind of topics, and that's
mhm.
really helpful. So yeah, just but and then like you said, it opens up conversation, and it's just another way to connect with clients.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Steph, if there's anything else you'd like to say, or are we ready to wrap?
I'm good. I think
Okay, so thanks for joining me on this episode of AI Productivity Workflow. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major podcast platforms. Everything you need to know you can find at thepodtalk.net. And you can email us at ThePodTalkNetwork@gmail.com. There are other shows, if you go to ThePodTalk.net, that I'm involved in producing: 15-Minute Bites, Tech Savvy Professor, Vision Profiles, the Neo Notebook, the Old Mac Gang, Fade to Chat, and Gear Up and Go. And so plenty to choose from if you get to ThePodTalk.net. Until next time, keep experimenting, stay productive, and let AI work for you.